I was gonna wear a hat and I don't want to anymore. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I decided to make another video. Yes, I have a band-aid on my palm. My tripod decided to attack me and it ripped open my hand right before filming. For a while I was doing monthly wrap-up videos of everything I read during a specific month, and I really enjoyed making those, and you guys seemed to like them as well. But for whatever reason, I just haven't been making them for the past couple of months. So today's video is going to be a larger wrap-up of everything I've read in the fall. Fall is in quotes because it's kind of like end of September until now, everything I've read. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about the things I'm currently reading and plan to read by the end of the year. Before we jump into the actual video though, I wanna take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, Kodak. You've heard of Kodak? They do cameras, and now they also do mini portable instant cameras. The Kodak 4-pass photo printers and instant camera technology offers the highest quality photos on the market of any comparables right now. The mini cameras come in a ton of different sizes, and you can choose from a retro look or a more modern look, and you can even print photos directly from your phone with their docking system for your desktop. Click on the link in my description to check out their entire product catalog and to check out their upcoming Black Friday deals. Now, back to the video. Now, the first book that I have to talk about is the only one on the list that I really want to go in depth on the ending because I have some things to say. Otherwise, I'm going to be just talking about kind of basic elements of what I've read, how I enjoyed them, etc., etc., trying to be spoiler free except for the first book. And the first book is Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. So skip ahead to this time if you have not read Empire of the Vampire, or if you're worried about spoilers, just skip ahead. If you don't care, keep watching. Here's the problem though. I'm literally whispering because currently Ryan is reading Empire of the Vampire and he hasn't finished it yet, and he's upstairs. And I don't want him to hear what I'm gonna say about this book because it'll be a huge spoiler. So I hope you can hear my voice picking up on the camera and it's not weird that I'm whispering. Okay, so I loved Empire of the Vampire. I think it was really great. I don't know why it took me so long to get to it. Probably just because it's enormous, so I was really intimidated by it. But I did this for a massive October buddy read. We all started it, I think October 1st, and like spent the month reading it. I did the audiobook. I thought the narration was phenomenal. I usually am not a fan of interview style stories, but I did find that this worked well. It was a little tricky on the audiobook sometimes, figuring out who was talking when we did switch timelines, like switch from Gabe telling his story to Gabe currently talking to Jean-Francois. This is where the spoilers are gonna come in, because I would like to talk about the third act of this book and how it left a sour taste in my mouth, unfortunately. I really liked this the whole way, and overall I think this is a fantastic book, but I'm really disappointed that it kind of devolved into just being The Last of Us. As soon as it was revealed that Dior is in fact a teenage girl and not a teenage boy, and Gabe starts to feel his fatherly paternal protection over her, and they set off on their own, just the two of them, with the identical dynamic to Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us, I was like, huh, I've read this before. And unfortunately, because I've read this before, slash played, slash seen this story before, it was immediately apparent everyone was going to betray Dior and Gabe. Like, oh yes, her blood is the cure to Day's death, just like how Ellie's blood is the cure to the zombies, the clickers. And oh no, we're going to have to kill Dior to get her blood. So obviously Gabe is gonna run at the very last second, slaughter everyone in the room, and take Dior and, you know, move on to book 2. I don't know. I'm not expressing myself the way that I want to because I'm worried Ryan's gonna hear me. I just felt cheated by the storytelling. From my perspective, there are almost no differences between how this ended and how The Last of Us Part 1 ended. And I can't imagine that J. Kristoff wasn't aware of that while writing it. And yeah, maybe The Last of Us wasn't as popular while he was writing this as it is now that the TV show has come out, but it was still a hugely popular game. So I wish that he had just, you know, done a side-by-side comparison of the game and this book and been like, what small things can I maybe change? Yeah, I know this is vampires and that's zombies, and there are, you know, slight differences in the characters themselves, but it was the same. Gabe is Joel, Dior is Ellie. their situation was the same. Ugh. I'm disappointed. I'm obviously still gonna get the next one and I'm gonna enjoy it, and I'm sure it will branch off and be different. But those are my thoughts on Empire of the Vampire, and I'm upset.
How's it going?
Good, I just whispered my review of this so you couldn't hear it.
I put on headphones so that I couldn't hear it.
Well, you could have told me that.
I was heads down trying real hard to fix my problem. I did.
Good, congrats.
Yeah, congrats. I literally had a 50-minute time limit trying to figure out what's going on here, and I thought it was some deep engine code tomfoolery, but then I'm a smart person and I understand how animations work and how notifies work and how they don't necessarily always line up with things because they're queued and not branching point. I'm like, ooh, you know what? Because this is queued, the notifying might happen before it actually finishes, therefore ending the motion warping prematurely. So if I make it branching point and force it to end exactly when it's supposed to, that means the motion warping will have all the time it actually needs to reach its point. So it's not actually a problem with motion warping at all, even though it definitely looks like a problem with motion warping. It wasn't. It was an animation problem and a timing problem with the notifies.
Good job.
Thanks.
Anyways, that was my review of Empire of the Vampire. On to the next book. I'm trying to remember the exact order that I read books in, but I don't remember and I don't care. So the next book on the list is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This was another buddy read that I did, although it was an impromptu buddy read because it's so short that a friend and I both were just discussing the book and decided to read it on the same day. Shout out to Mountain Home Reading on Instagram. Shirley Jackson is most famous for writing The Haunting of Hill House, which if you haven't read the book, you've probably heard of the Mike Flanagan TV show, which was the start of his sort of enormous franchise of spooky shows. Haunting of Hill House is the best one. And the show is extremely different from the book. Let me just tell you that. Anyways, I decided to read We Have Always Lived in the Castle. It was sort of going around on Instagram, so I was seeing it a bit. And I already owned a copy, and it's so tiny that I was like, you know what? Here we go. I loved this. I haven't read any Shirley Jackson before, and I haven't read a lot of older books, at least not in a long time. This book was written in 1967, I want to say. 1956. I don't know where I got 1967. So this was written in 1956, and I haven't read anything from the 50s since I was a kid. I used to read a lot of Nancy Drew and Encyclopedia Brown and Hardy Boys, and some of those are from the 50s. So this was very reminiscent of that to me, although also quite different. We've Always Lived in the Castle is the story of two reclusive, weird sisters living in their mansion, and they are hated by the townsfolk for some reason. After I finished reading this, I was looking on Goodreads just to see what kind of thoughts people have about it. And a few reviews, well, more than a few, reviews I came across mentioned that like they had no idea what the plot of this story was. And I can see that, I get it. There's an obvious plot, so they're wrong. But the point is, it's definitely not scary, especially if you're coming at this from, and I've only watched The Haunting of Hill House, which is based on a book by the same author, mindset. While this is categorized as horror, it's not scary, it's more mysterious and eerie and gothic. I found Shirley Jackson's writing very compelling. It was fantastic. And yeah, not a lot happened in this book, but that didn't matter because I was just so enthralled by the main characters, Mary Catherine and Constance. This book was vaguely mushroomy at times, which I'm not a fan of because of my phobia, but that's okay because it mostly wasn't mushroomy. I don't really know what else to say without like giving away stuff about this book. If you want a weird, short, gothic read by one of the most renowned horror authors of all time, check this one out. I think there's a movie as well with Sebastian Stan, but like, it's probably bad. I was definitely on a short book binge in the fall because after that I read The Builders by Daniel Polanski. I did a whole video on this book, so I'm not going to talk about it again. I'm just going to link it above. You can check it out there. This is the silliest book I've ever read, but I did like it. 3 stars. Okay, so the 4th book that I read in the fall, I almost didn't include in this video because I forgot it existed. It's like this book has just, it went in my eyes, or my ears actually, because I did the audiobook. It went in my ears and then my brain released it into the wild. I was so excited for Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, and while I was listening to it, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really good. This is a religious possession story set in the late 1800s at a boys' orphanage. Sounds fantastic. It started pretty strong, and then, I don't know, it just was extremely predictable and not very innovative, I would say, and apparently, get back in there, entirely unmemorable, unfortunately. I was making the list for this video and I forgot to put this book on it, and then I remembered and added it, and then gathering the books for the video, I forgot about it again. So truthfully, I don't think I'd recommend Boys in the Valley, unfortunately. If you are a horror fan, maybe give it a go just to check a box, but it's not a standout. I'm disappointed. Better than The Builders though. A book that I was not disappointed in at all was Red River 7 by A.J. Ryan, aka Anthony Ryan. This release went totally under the radar. I talked about it already in one of my haul videos about how Anthony Ryan is very popular in the epic fantasy world, but he's released his first sci-fi thriller horror thing, and he's gone with the pen name A.J. Ryan, and I think that was a mistake because people aren't reading this, and it's really good, and it's still kind of fantasy. No, it's not fantasy, but it is good. I go through different kinds of reading slumps where I'm not reading at all, or I'm just not reading physical books. And as much as I love audiobooks, I do like to mix it up and actually read physical books, but I was just struggling. But this one really fixed that for me. The true definition of a page turner. Oh, there's a quote from Philip Fracassi on the back, author of Boys in the Valley. The very, 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 very basic premise is that a man wakes up on a boat with no memory of who he is or where he is or what he's doing. He's got a gun, and when he looks around, there are 6 other people on this boat in the exact same situation. I really don't want to give away anything further than that because this book truly is full of twists and turns, and I just don't want to tell you anything. What I will say is that right from the start, I was having this very nostalgic Maze Runner vibe. I don't really know why, but it really reminded me of like an adult Maze Runner, and I love the Maze Runner, so that's a high compliment from me. It also gave me a bit of early 2000s survival horror video game. I couldn't stop thinking about how cool of a video game this would be. As I was reading the book, I was like, I can totally picture how this sequence would work and how you'd play this. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about this one more because I want you to read it, but this was, I would say, 4.5 stars, maybe 4 3/4. Some things didn't love, but like barely relevant. Read it, please, and then talk to me about it. The last book that I read in the fall was very unexpected for me because it was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which I started 2 years ago. The Stormlight Archive is my husband Ryan's favorite series of all time. The second book, Words of Radiance, is his actual favorite one, but obviously I have to start with the first book in the series. So I started listening to this on audiobook probably about 2 years ago, and I thought it was really great, but I just had a really hard time sticking to it for some reason. I think just because of the length, I didn't feel accomplished reading it, and that's something that I struggle with when it comes to reading, is I need to feel accomplished. I need to feel a sense of progress, and finishing a book, like short books, is really important to me to keep me motivated in reading and not falling into a slump. So it was really difficult to get through this one for me, even though it's fantastic. But this week, I finally finished this book, and oh my goodness, I don't even have to tell you guys because you've probably read The Way of Kings or at least heard about it a million times, but this was more than 5 stars. This was probably the best book I've ever read. I didn't think I was gonna be a Sander fanboy, but here we are. Side note, this is a new copy of the hardcover. We decided to collect the hardcovers, but my other physical copy of this, my paperback, was loaned by Ryan to someone that he met in kickboxing, and then that person never returned. He absconded with my book. So now my collection is incomplete unless I rebuy the paperback. I'm gonna do an entire video about The Way of Kings and my thoughts on it later on, so I'm not gonna go in depth on it right now. If you've heard the term Sanderlanche before, like how his books really just like start picking up speed towards the end and snowball into like the best book ever, that's so real. I think one of the reasons I was struggling through this was the world building was excellent. The writing is like the best writing I've ever read, but I didn't find it super exciting until the last 20% or so, and then it was incredible. Okay, it's heavy. I'm gonna put it down. I'm waiting until January to start Words of Radiance. I just need a break. Mostly because I'm really close to hitting my 2023 reading goal, which is 55 books. It's lower than last year, and currently I'm sitting at 51 books. If I dedicate the rest of the year to reading Words of Radiance, I'm not gonna hit my goal, and I know it's not that important at all, and I'm the only one pressuring myself to hit my goal, but I would like to. So instead of going straight into book 2, I'm reading some other stuff, and I've decided to pick up 2 books that I put on hold sort of in the middle of 2023. The first one being God Killer by Hannah Kaner. Yes, this is my UK arc that I started in like December last year, and I'm about halfway through it still. Hey, the bookmark is from the same place as this shirt, the bookshelf in Guelph. Yeah, God Killer, oh, God Killer. I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun. I think it's a unique idea, but I'm not thrilled by it, and I don't know, it started so strong and I'm just having a hard time, but I am reading this with my eyes and I think I can do it. It's short. Oh, and to people saying that this is like The Witcher, yeah, it's like The Witcher in the most basic sense. She hunts and kills gods. He hunts and kills monsters. And there's like a little girl. That's it. You're wrong. And lastly, I am listening to an audiobook that I paused in March, maybe. You might be excited about this. It's Malice by John Gwynne. I've tried twice already to get through it, and for some reason I'm struggling. I know that people say it picks up. The 3rd book is where it's at apparently, but you gotta read the 1st and 2nd before you get to the 3rd one, so I'm trying. But it's an audiobook and I've only got like 7 hours left in it, so I can definitely do it before the new year. I have to finish God Killer, finish Malice, and then read 2 more books, and I will have hit my reading goal for 2023. Y'all, that was everything I read in the fall. Yeah, that kind of rhymed. If you have any suggestions for what my last 2 reads of the year should be, let me know down below. Also, I'm not against reading more than my goal, because why would I? Also, I just want to say thank you again to my sponsor, Kodak. Check out the link in the description to see all of their mini cameras and photo printers and cool stuff that they have for sale, and their Black Friday sale is coming up as well, so thank you again, Kodak. Before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 2 days a week. I love you guys. Goodbye. Stop filming.